John Mark Ramseyer, a Mitsubishi professor of Japanese legal studies at Harvard University, has recently published an article called Contracting for Sex in the Pacific War, published by the International Review of Law and Economics. Side note here, Mitsubishi used prisoners of war as slaves during World War II, and you can check out our video in the links below regarding that topic. The article attempts to argue that these young women and girls voluntarily participated in indentured debt type contracts that provided them with sufficient incentives to work. Specifically, the author attempts to argue that the contracts were organized by private entrepreneurs with no involvement by the Imperial Japanese military or government, and that the contracts included a large upfront payment and short duration so that these young women and girls would participate for the duration of the contract. The author claims that the contracts themselves followed basic game theoretic principles of credible commitments. Ramseyer could not be more wrong. To understand why, let's look into what comfort women are, their experiences, and their issues. Trigger warning for rape and sexual assault ahead. Comfort women, or ianfu, is a euphemism for prostitute in Japanese, and is used to refer to the women who experienced sexual slavery during the Pacific Asia War. Some historians estimate that 200,000 women from China, the Philippines, Korea, the Netherlands, Indonesia, and many other countries were forced into sexual slavery at comfort stations against their will under Japanese rule. These stations were even established and maintained by the Japanese government. There was even differential treatment for the women according to race. Japanese women were of the highest class and reserved for higher-ranking officers. Korean women were of second-class status, and the local girls were of the lowest class. Comfort stations were thought to prevent diseases and rape to the local population during an invasion. In Ramseyer's paper, he went a step over the top and described the thought processes of Japanese recruiters in a way that glosses over the brutal reality of the experiences of comfort women, and instead poses the situation like a game. In his introduction, he wrote, "Consider the contracting problem. To staff these brothels, entrepreneurs needed to recruit young women. They obviously needed to promise the women extremely high pay. Even in the best of circumstances, prostitution is harsh and dangerous work and exacts a major reputational penalty. Women will take the job only if they expect to earn income both high enough to offset these costs and significantly higher than their next best alternative. For work in distant wartime locations, the entrepreneurs needed to promise pay substantially higher even than in the Tokyo or Seoul brothels. To the standard travails of prostitution, the comfort stations added the risk of warfare. They added the cost of living in a foreign environment. The women would be away from friends, allies, people to whom they could turn for help should the brothel try to cheat them. And they raised the difficulty of absconding should the brothel try to cheat, and the price of returning home if they stayed their term and retired at the end. Although they needed to promise the women high pay, the entrepreneurs could not just offer a high monthly wage. They were hiring women to perform unpleasant work in impossible-to-monitor surroundings. If they promised a fixed monthly wage, they gave each woman an incentive to be sufficiently unpleasant that no one asked for her at the front desk. Necessarily, they needed a wage contract that rewarded effort. However, in reality, within the comfort stations, women were subject to repeated rape, forced abortions, physical torture, and sexually transmitted diseases, and it has been estimated that roughly 75% died from this experience. Estimates of the number of enslaved people have varied from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands. Here is an example of an amenities document that uses the term houses of relaxation as a means to sugarcoat the Japanese Army's exploitation of women. It also outlines that many comfort women were not allowed to leave their designated area without permission, and that army tickets were used to pay the bills at these places. As mentioned previously, rates were different according to race, shown in this figure. In Shanghai, you are even able to see some of the remaining sites of comfort stations, such as the Ease Hotel Comfort Station and the Hometown Comfort Station, which was the biggest comfort station that existed in Asia. As stated in his paper, girls as young as 10 years old were taken as comfort women from Japan. However, unlike what he stated in his paper, many girls had thought they were going to work at a hospital or factory. One Korean woman, Kim Hak-sun, described in a 1991 interview about how she was drafted into the Comfort Women Corps in 1941. When I was 17 years old, the Japanese soldiers came along in a truck, beat us, her and her friend, and then dragged us into the back. I was told if I were drafted, I could earn lots of money in a textile factory. The first day, I was raped, and the rapes never stopped. I was born a woman, but never lived as a woman. I feel sick when I come close to a man, not just Japanese men, but all men, even my own husband who saved me from the brothel. I shiver whenever I see a Japanese flag. Why should I feel ashamed? I don't have to feel ashamed. Kim stated that she was raped 30 to 40 times a day, every day of the year during her time as a comfort woman. A Chinese woman, Zhuang Xiantu, explains that she was locked into a room for more than 20 days where she was raped by countless soldiers daily. If she did not comply with the soldiers' orders, she was physically beaten all over her body and face. Furthermore, to prevent her escape, there were guards at the door and all around the comfort station to prevent her from escaping. Even after she managed to be free from the comfort station, she suffered isolation from her in-laws for being a dirty woman and had to become the primary caretaker of her husband, who suffered from PTSD, despite her own gynecologic problems and trauma that she had endured at the comfort station. Rosa Henson, the first Filipino comfort woman to come out and share her story, recalls that she was often raped back-to-back by 12 or more soldiers at a time with no rest. She was only 16 when she became a comfort woman, after being captured by the Japanese army. Lola Rosa, telling her story, had inspired other Filipino comfort women to be able to speak out about their experiences as well, and even formed a group called the Malaya Lolas, which consists of comfort women and their family members. With this colossal amount of evidence piled up against Ramseyer, it is without question that the paper he published is not only outrageously inaccurate and inappropriate, but also incredibly harmful as well. Many comfort women are still currently fighting to have their experiences recognized and receive appropriate reparations and apology from Japan for all the pain they had endured as young women. Thanks for joining us. Please subscribe if you like this video, and please check out the links below for more information on the experiences of comfort women.